possible jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, jaw fracture, jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, and possible jaw fracture, and possible jaw fracture, and possible jaw fracture, and possible jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, jaw fracture, jaw fracture, jaw fracture, jaw fracture, jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, jaw fracture, jaw fracture, jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, and possible jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, 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 possible jaw fracture, and possible jaw fracture, 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 jaw fracture, jaw fracture, possible jaw fracture, jaw fracture, their bone loss and possible jaw fracture. Their bone should be removed immediately to prevent further bone loss and possible jaw fracture. Should be removed immediately to prevent further bone loss and possible jaw fracture. Should be removed immediately, weakening the jaw. If discovered in an X-ray, both the cyst and the wisdom tooth should be removed immediately to prevent further bone loss and possible jaw fracture. Their bone loss should be removed immediately to prevent further bone loss and possible jaw fracture. Should be removed immediately to prevent further bone loss and possible jaw fracture. 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 Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. 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 And possible jaw fracture. And possible jaw fracture. And possible jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture. Possible jaw fracture.